Okay. Hello, everybody. I thought I would just look into the Sega Game Gear a little bit this morning. I recently came into one partially. Someone asked me to redo the capacitors on it. And I was like, well, I've never done this before, but I would love if you gave me the opportunity. And he graciously agreed. So, I just thought it'd be cool to do a quick look through. I know the Sega Game Gear is there's tons of videos on YouTube, and especially a lot of tutorial videos on how to change the capacitors. That is one of the biggest things that shows up. First thing you look up, Sega Game Gear. Even here you can see on the right hand side, Sega Game Gear, new capacitors, new screen lens, free game, $300 on Etsy. So the capacitor problem is well known, and I would not worry about finding information on that. So it came out. There's a fellow that does a really nice deep dive into the Sega Game Gear on YouTube. Game Historian, I believe, is his name. But what I kind of wanted to look into is actually eBay. I was curious about checking out how the eBay situation was for the Game Gear. So I wonder if I can get these prices in Canadian. I wonder. Okay, and we're back. So I went to the .ca website because I am in .ca territory. And so first one we're looking at here, very cool looking one. Mostly I see them in black. And this guy is obviously in, I want to say gray, but it's like a taupe and red. I'm not sure if it's modified. New shell, so I suppose that's not the original. Recapped. So new capacitors is what that means. So a new screen, IPS screen, that would be, and that I don't think is very hard to do either, but the screen would light up. Like we're used to seeing it light up versus the original Game Gear where there's an actual light bulb behind the screen. Glass lens, I'm not sure why that's a big deal. Maybe they were cracked or they were plastic and they were kind of foggy. Kind of like some old headlights. I'm not sure about that one. A lot of money though. And it's funny, it says pre-owned, but like this came out 30 plus years ago, so I imagine it's pre-owned. I imagine these are all pre-owned. If you can find a brand new Game Gear that's never been out of the box, probably don't buy it, but that's cool because it still has the original capacitors and stuff, so that's no good, but it's kind of neat. This one is $140. If it doesn't have the capacitors changed out, I don't think it's any good. Yeah, you've got the classic 1-2 buttons there instead of the 4 that we have nowadays. The D-pad, of course. And then there are some shoulder buttons start there. And a big bottom screen. I'm sure this thing is a pleasure to hold. I've never actually held one. I know I said I have one, but I only have half of it. And so it doesn't quite count. I can't hold it in my hands because it's only half of a thing. I've only got the board, basically. And then big old speaker holes on the left there. So yeah, let's scroll through the photos a little bit. Sorry, this is such a squish screen. I'm doing this all on my phone, and it's a small screen. Looks pretty clean. This thing took 6 AA's and it ate through those, as far as I understand. $140 though, a lot of money. Also, 97 US, is that the conversion rate right now? That's nuts. Obviously, Sega. And then, so we're squishing down, or we're getting down into so we're going to go back. New screen lens protector. VA1. So it's either VA0 and VA1 or VA1 and VA2. And if you ever need to change the capacitors on it, there's some good sources out there that I found very easily. I wouldn't worry about finding sources, but if you're wondering, how can I tell the difference? It's very, very obvious once you get the board open. You can see on one, there's like one or two chips and capacitors kind of laying around. And then on the other one, there's like 7. It's a big difference. So I wouldn't worry about trying to like, figure, oh, this one has 37 capacitors, this one has 38. Like, it's very obvious. Sega Game Gears, something with the, if you go with the ceramic capacitors, they are non-polar, I believe is the word, so you can put them on either direction. Just a little fun fact. This one's very cute and completely brand new. Everything's redone on it. That does seem like it's worth the money. It doesn't seem like it's worth $300, but at the moment, I think for a high-end, well remade Sega Game Gear, that's kind of what they're going for right now. So that's reasonable. But this next one, fully capped, original, old school screen, probably, hard to see. Comes with 3 games, $140. That's a good deal. That is something I would consider jumping on. And then 97. This one doesn't say anything about being recapped. It's probably not working. So here we go, 4 parts. That's what we like to see. $20. Black, which is kind of the classic, like, that's the one that I've seen mostly online. People get those ones online. So fully black, nice and easy. I think that's the first one that came out. I don't know anything about it. 4 parts. So obviously all the caps have gone on it. They're not saying, but likely, yeah, the capacitors have gone. Maybe they've leaked onto the board. They need some new capacitors. I think new capacitors are pretty cheap. We'll look into those in a minute here. And then here you've got 2, I assume they're parts only, it says. High rated seller. Now the funny thing about this, and this is something that you probably know already if you're looking into this, but if you're getting a Sega Game Gear and you see 2 for parts only, if for a lot of systems you're like, okay, one probably has a bad, this thing, it has bad joysticks, and the other one probably has a bad screen, and so I can take the 2 of them, put them together, and things will be handy dandy. But for this, that's not true, because they're probably both 4 parts only, needing capacitors. So you could get both for $45 each, change out the caps on them, and resell them for $150 each. And you make some money back, and it's a good life. It's a good life. It's a living. But just know that you can't buy 2 bad Game Gears and make 1 good Game Gear out of it. You can't do that. Retro Freak Game Gear converter. Oh, that's interesting. So it's coming from Japan. So it looks like it's converting your Retro Freak SG to MK. Oh, it looks like it's... Oh, wow. So you can put all kinds of different games in there and then put those in a different device, a Retro Freak device. And that will... Good gracious, this is a squishy screen. Let me get rid of this. Oh, okay, that goes away. So yeah, you can have these different MK3, Sega, GG, and they all go into this converter. And the converter can go into this Retro Freak device. Gear converter. Okay, we're just going in circles. So that's kind of neat. I'm sure this seems like a good $300 deal. Here we go. Because we're looking at we're looking at, get out of here, get out of here. So we're looking at in-box Game Gear, different color, comes with original Japanese boxing, comes with a game that looks new to me, but it's in the packaging, Monaco, and it does look like an old game, but it doesn't look like old packaging, but I'm not sure. Something on the left here, probably the original like user manual, comes with the power adapter, which is very cool because the power was a big problem for these guys, and so you could plug them into the wall instead of using batteries, and that is a big deal because now you all of a sudden can buy this system off of eBay, original packaging, cool color, and you don't need to keep buying AAA batteries, or AA batteries for it, sorry. So let's scroll through the photos quickly. So we've got this nice close-up of the... So yeah, it looks like the case itself is in decent shape. I assume either an adult owned it or like a kid had it and really cared about it. The screen even looks okay. Oh, that D-pad is nice. I do like those kind of full circle D-pads. They're cool. There is a slight gap in the casing on this side. Perhaps they took it apart at some point to change the capacitors. Not sure. Now there's a hole on the top in the middle there, and that's like a special screw if you need to take it apart. Now, I cannot tell. It's a deep black hole, but I think there's the screw still in there, but it looks like it's missing to me. And then left and right are the battery slots, and it still has the battery covers in the same color, so that's good. Screen turns on. Oh, so it's working. So the screen works. The screen looks a little messed up, but I think that's just the original screen was kind of hard to capture on modern day cameras. I think if you had like a photo, like a film camera, it would actually capture that screen better. Okay, so they did open up. So they've opened it up, and they're showing you, so you can see all of the capacitors have been changed. So they don't say recapped on the thing, but this is 100% recapped. All these little capacitors, like this, guys, they were big boys. You would know. So that looks like it's nicely done. Not that I know a lot about soldering, but that looks pretty nice. So, okay, that's cool. So resoldered, redone. This is the back of the board. Same thing, new capacitors. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I've done one capacitor. Is the C1 here. And, well, it doesn't look that good. So anyways, well, that's exciting. So yeah, this is a $300 Sega Game Gear, but not those ones up above that were like this green one here. It's cool. It's $240. You know, they've changed the screen. For some people that's good, for some people that's bad. But I think the original in-box from Japan is worth so much more than the like modified new screen. And then of course new capacitors is good just because then it works. But I wouldn't say that's not original hardware because it's still original, plus it works because you've changed the capacitors. Anyways, and the ceramic ones will never break. So you're good there. But yeah, so this guy, again, we're seeing like, okay, $380, a lot of money. But we've got Sega Game Gear in what I can tell is, I believe, is a box. We've got Sonic 2, which is a classic Sega game. So how can you say no? Fully working, fully recapped. So you know the system's coming and it's going to be working. And then you've got a big bundle of all this stuff. And so that, I would say, yeah, that's a decent deal. And it does come with something I can't see. So let's take a closer look. So it's got a battery pack. So you could get a battery pack for these things to plug in. so that you did not need the batteries, and they wouldn't go into the battery slots. They would just plug into the like wall outlet thing. So that's handy. So yeah, so those kind of things are worth, I think, the money. But here we've got launch edition blue handheld system. As far as I can tell, it's just like it comes with the charger because it's plugged in right now. And it is kind of neat, but just sitting like with that photo right there as it is, $215? I don't think so. With 10 games, $98. Now that's a really good deal. That's probably something I would more go for because it's $100 for, and it comes with 10 games. Like those 10 games alone are probably worth $100. So it's a pretty good market for the Game Gear, if I'm honest. Like it seems like something that you could jump into and not overspend, because it's something that people seem to want, but not something that's saturated like the Game Boy. So maybe in a second here, I'll just quickly comb through some Game Boy games. But if you are going to get burps. If you are going to get a quote-unquote broken Game Gear and fix it and get, what you want, the ceramic capacitors. They're pretty easy to find. Bam, ceramic capacitor kit. And it comes with, now this is not the one I have. And this is like an old ceramic capacitor kit. It looks like it's an actual Sega ceramic capacitor kit. Now you can find these elsewhere, so don't necessarily get these ones. But they are easy to find. You've got in the middle, you've got the motherboard ones. Nice and easy. And you can find photos online that show you exactly where each microfarad number goes, 110 and 1. And then on the right, you've got the soundboard. And that one, I think, is pretty straightforward. Now, the one on the left is where the chonkers come in. And in that like beautiful blue Sega we looked at a second ago, he actually had ceramic capacitors, the little guys, on the power board, but here they're giving you the big boys. It's fine either way. The only thing is it's $11, so pretty cheap. So if let's say you got two broken Sega Game Gears for $90, and then this guy for $11 each, so $12. So looking at another $24. So that's $114. And then if you're able to sell one of them for, let's say, $120, so you've made your money back there. So you and then the second one for $120, so you doubled your money. So in theory, that's like not a bad deal, but you would have to test that out at your own risk. But it's definitely a fun little, like, pretty safe thing to get into. Even here, okay, sorry, they actually show you right here the capacitor layout. So and actually, so VA1 and VA0, there we go. And if you look at the board here, on the left, bottom left, you've got two big chips of some sort. And on the bottom right, you've got two big chips. This is VA0. Now here, on the bottom left, you have one medium chip, I would say. And then on the bottom right, you've got this big square boy. And then that little black chip there as well. So very different layout. So if you're wondering, oh, do I have this or this? You'll know. Also, you have the same number of capacitors, I believe, 5, 5, and 2. 5, 4, and 2, my bad. But it comes with 5, 5, and 2. So you will always have enough capacitors to do what you need to do. Now let's quickly look at Game Boy Advance prices just to compare. So this is interesting. So here, Pokemon Pinball Ruby Sapphire, $400. Nintendo Game Boy Advanced Tested Works Donkey Kong Mario. So 2 games and the console. That's working apparently for $53. So that's unheard of. That's cool. $64. The parts only. That makes more sense. Now here is a place where you might be able to get 2 Game Boy Advanced and make one good Game Boy Advance. You can also get aftermarket parts for these pretty easily. But what were we looking at? So $64 for one broken Game Boy Advance. And if we wanted a Sega Game Gear, I think it was $20. Although there was only one online for $20. But I think if I had put in parts only Sega Game Gear, we would have got a lot more options. I don't know what this is, so I'm gonna scroll by it. But here we go. Like, look, we've got the SP, the flip up, 110. Now, okay, so the working Sega was like 200 at least. So, and then here we've got a lot. Oh, free use tested, region free. Pardon me. Color match. So this is just, you can pick your colors, and they're about $130, let's say. So it is actually cheaper to get a Game Boy, I would say. Here we've got a special edition for $300, and then games for about $20-30 each. I think the games are actually easier to come across. $120 here for an SP. And it has a light up screen, so that's a better deal. This is the one I think I had. This like clear milky blue. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had this one. $90. That seems like a decent deal. And it doesn't say it's for parts only. So it just says pre-owned. So I think that's a good deal. Now the thing is, the Sega Game Gear is bigger and it has a light up screen. So the question is, now I would say if you're getting a Sega Game Gear, get a broken one and fix it if you really want one, because they're so much cheaper. Whereas obviously the like well fixed ones are between $150 and $350. And it appears that these Game Boys are a little cheaper, but I kind of like the size and like girth of the Sega a little bit more. Maybe I'm just biased against... Gonna cut that out. Maybe I'm just biased against Nintendo for some reason. But a lot of Nintendo stuff, like as a kid, of course. Game Boy. Oh, I gotta stop doing that. Game Boy was the jam, but... not anymore. I don't know. I don't. It's not my favorite. Game Boy Color? Oh. Because I thought these things were so blimmin' expensive, but they're really not coming up as crazy expensive. Game Boy Color is a little bit more. Oh. Pokemon Pikachu Edition Glass Lens. Okay, so that makes sense. It's been modified. It's a special edition. Yeah, I would expect that. ISP backlight, no solder. True drop-in kit. Oh, so it's a kit. So it's not even so this is just a screen kit. So there's as many people trying to sell you screen kits for the Game Boy as trying to sell you Game Boys. And say, and look, $90 for the screen kit, $150 for the Game Boy. Kind of cool looking, but this is more the average. I think like $150. Game Boy Color, mint condition, decent color, like, and then you've got the modded. atomic purple, new screen, works. So the pricing on these is like very variable. So here I'm like, oh, look at this, Game Boy Advance with all this other stuff, and it's like, no, this is an IPS screen, LCD, pre-cut shell case. So it comes with a case and a screen and some other stuff. So this is like a modification kit, which is cool, but holy smokes, like so many people pushing so many Game Boy Advanced modifications. Crazy. Dust cover door, $10. That's actually kind of nice. That I like, because dust is a problem. So here we've got $50, parts only, around the same as the Sega Game Gear. I think we figured there was 2 for $90, so $45 each. So yeah, for $50. But I don't know what the average problem with these is, whereas with the Sega, it's always the capacitors. That's always what's wrong with them. So, but maybe for you, you're like, with the Game Boy Color, it's always this other thing. You just got to throw in another whatever, and those are easy to find. They're like $3 on Amazon or something. So I have no idea. And for some people, like, let's say the Game Boy Color, you have to change the power supply, so you have to solder a couple wires together, and that's easy peasy. Whereas with the Sega Game Gear, you have to take out and replace a bunch of capacitors, which is a little more intense work as far as, like, if you've never done soldering before. So I could see the appeal of sort of you unscrew things and screw things, new things in, and then you're good. You have a working Game Boy, versus I have to take out soldered in parts off of a board and solder in new parts. I could see that being intimidating, because it's like super intimidating. So I can see the appeal of the other way. Honestly, if someone sold Sega Game Gear boards for a little cheaper, if they somehow got a whole pile of boards, no screen or anything, and sold that pack of like pre-soldered boards for like $100, and then you could just get a hold of like a shell or something, I think that would sell. Anyways, so the prices are comparable. This one says pre-owned $100. It looks like they're a little cheaper. It looks like the Sega Game Gears are actually a little more expensive, but if you get them broken, they're super cheap, and they're easy to find the replacement parts for, because it's the capacitors. It's always the capacitors. So yeah, I'd say go for it. Hopefully I'll do a little thing on like showing you my work with the Sega, but really there's so many videos online about how to fix a Sega Game Gear, and from people who have actually soldered before. I would not watch my own video if I made one. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. But yeah, thanks anybody who took the time to watch this. This is cool. Man, eBay is a scary place. Because what's this? Flash Master, rewritable cart. So oh my gosh, so you can load up games onto a little SD card, throw it in this cartridge, and then throw that cartridge in your Game Boy, I think, and then put that, and then you can just play whatever you want. Oh, also, I think on the PSP, I'm pretty sure, because it has a memory card, you can just plug it in your computer, load up some PSP ROMs. They have to be PSP ROMs, obviously, but load up some PSP ROMs, and then just stick it back in your PSP, and I think you could just play games right off of there. So, I mean, if you have a PSP and you have a memory card and you're into downloading ROMs at all, I'm not recommending downloading ROMs, but also like highly recommend, especially for the old games that aren't out anymore. It's people say, like, they throw around words like copyright and steal and like all this stuff when it comes to emulation, but when you are going online to get a game that's like 20-30 years old and has been out of production for at least 15-20 years, and you can't buy them anymore, it's like, sure, you don't own the intellectual property, and so it is stealing, but also no one else is going to give it to you, so just go get it. Just go get it. Like, whatever. Don't get a new game. That's not fair. They're like actively creating that game, and they put a lot of time and effort into it in the recent past. But if you're gonna grab something that's like 20 years old, I wouldn't feel too bad about it. Anyways, this was just a little dive into Sega Game Gear and the stuff, what do you call that stuff? eBay. The eBay world. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Have a good one.